Hello everyone, myself Praveen. In this video, I am going to provide some fundamentals of Git and GitHub. The purpose of this video recording is to explain about Git, GitHub and GitHub Desktop differences, introduction to Git, how it works, important comments of Git, and what is GitHub, GitHub Desktop. We'll cover those with an live example in this video. By coming to the differences, many people think that GitHub and Git both are same, but those are actually different. GitHub is a cloud-based hosting service that lets you manage your Git repositories, which means it is a platform that where we can create a project or save our applications or a code. But Git is a version controlling system that lets you manage and keep track of your source code history. We can keep track of every activity that we performed in a GitHub. GitHub Desktop is an visualizing tool. It's basically an application that where we can work with GitHub and Git with a graphical user interface. First of all, what is Git? Git is a distributed version controlling system that allows developers to keep track of their changes, manage those changes, and collaborate on those changes to source code and other files. By taking an example, if we are having 5 developers working in a same project, they have their own project code and they do changes in their project. And if they wanted to add those changes into a single repository, a main repository, these Git can be highly helpful for them. By explaining about the key participants in this diagram, code workspace, staging, local repository, remote repository. Code workspace is our local workspace environment that where we will write source code. In our example, if we have 5 developers, there are 5 workspaces and 5 staging environments on that system and 5 local repositories. But they are working with a single remote repository, which is a GitHub portal. Okay. In their workspace, they write their own code and add those changes into the staging. So then after they can commit the changes into the local repository. In this local repository, if when we commit our changes into local repository, other collaborators can't see those changes. It's in our local environment only with the git commit command until we push those changes. Okay. If we wanted to add all the changes, we can use git commit -a, or some of the changes we can use git add. We can reset the changes from the staging and reset the changes from the remote repository. If we push it into the remote repository, we can revert the changes. Those commands we can discuss in the later session of this video. First of all, how this Git works. In Git, we can create, with the help of Git, we can create a new repository or clone an existing repository. So after creating or cloning an existing repositories, we can make some changes and add those changes into the staging environment. Like example, if we have 10 file changes in our application, if we wanted to push only 4 changes out of them, then we have to stage those 4 changes. Then we can commit it. When we commit our changes are in our local environment only. Until we push our changes, it won't be visible to other collaborators or other project teammates. If we publish some wrong commit, we can reset it from our local with a git reset command. If we publish into our remote repository, which is accessible to everyone, we have to use git revert command. Okay. These are some important commands that we can work with Git. To work with this command, we have to install Git bash or command prompt or PowerShell of it. And we have to install Git bash into our own system in order to work with these commands. GitHub Desktop is a replacement of these Git commands, which means we will have a graphical user interface that we can where we can perform all these operations. So I'm explaining an overview of it. Git config is an command that where we can add username and password, all those details, configuration part, and initializing a new repository, cloning a existing repository, adding our changes into the staging. We can use this git add and git stage for the same purpose. We can commit those changes with this command. Git remote to check out to the remote repository branches and check out to the branch with a specific branch name and pull those changes, push changes. We can fetch the latest changes which are recently published into the Git, and we can make multiple branches also. We can reset and revert the Git changes, tag our changes, which means commits into a specific name for easy filtering, log those, check the logs and status. We can use Git help to know about all these comments in a detailed way. What is GitHub? As we said earlier, GitHub is a platform that where we can save our project, and we can find an existing projects over there. It is an open source, free of cost. We can uh, write a new code in a browser itself into GitHub, and we can track each and every changes with an issue. We can create a user stories, tasks, features. We'll cover all those things in the next video. We can write wiki pages about our project regarding its technologies or coding standards or project use cases on everything we can maintain over there about our project. We can work those with the offline and we can add a git ignore files to ignore some unnecessary files created by default in our application. GitHub Desktop. It is a graphical user interface that where we can perform Git and GitHub operations. This is the link to download GitHub Desktop into our own system. We'll start it. Yeah, we can find it for Windows and Linux and Mac operating systems. I'm using Windows. So by clicking on the download now, we can find the latest available version of it. And I have installed this GitHub Desktop for the time's sake. So let me open that. Yes. When we open your GitHub Desktop, um, you can click on these options. We can sign up with your own account, your own GitHub account. Okay. Then after, it auto-populated with your GitHub name, email ID, and default branch when we create a new repository of it or a new project of it. We can alternatively change these things except email. Yes, I already connected to my GitHub main page. These are the repositories I have in my GitHub GitHub main page. So let me open my GitHub. Here is my GitHub. These are overview repositories and project boards packages. We'll cover all those in later videos. And we can create a new repository from here. or we can clone an existing repositories as well. Let's start with an existing repositories. So I'm going to find an existing repository to clone into our system and work with that and add some features and add those projects into our own GitHub account. Okay. First of all, I'm searching with mm, Uber some clone. I'm searching for an Uber clone application that where I can add some features into that and update some code, add it in my own repository. So by coming to the this one, I found one project about for GitHub clone. This is already implemented. We can copy this link to clone into our local environment. But before cloning into our local, please take care about their license. There is no license for this one. Maybe yes, we can find these licenses. These licenses include information about their software or a project, whether we can copy into our local or not. Here by seeing this license, we can find it's free of charge. We can copy the applications and there is no restrictions, limitations. We can use, modify, copy, merge and publish the changes. So we can take up this application as well. Okay. So click on this code, copy the HTTP URL, navigate to our GitHub desktop, and here we have multiple options in here. First thing is clone from an internet, create a new repository into a local device, existing repository, clone from an internet in my case. So in GitHub, I'm searching with the project with URL. So after that in URL section, I added this URL GitHub and local path that where we are going to save our project into this. So I wanted to save it in my desktop. In ideal case, you can add it in other drives other than C drive to keep safe of your application when your system crashes. Okay. For example, I'm adding in desktop. I selected the folder and I can change the folder name also. When cloning the application, it starts cloning the work. So yes, I think it's done. Yes, here is my application which I recently cloned. When we navigate it, we can find all the things like their application code, images and everything that we see in this GitHub. So like those, we can clone an existing application, modify these changes and add it to your own repository. I have a Visual Studio Code editor. Okay, I can open it from here in command prompt. Visual Studio Code space dot, which is means in this directory I wanted to open my Visual Studio Code. So when you see your file changes, so it's all came right. Okay. Similarly, we'll create one new application for our purpose. So I'm navigating to my repository, own repository and new repository and Uber app or Uber services, yes, anything. And in a new repository, we can provide description of it, and we can select a public or private. We can add a readme file which covers all the detailed information of our project, that where we taken our project and which technologies they have implemented and which one we are modifying, their unique features, everything we can add it in a readme file. So I'm going to add that readme file. That's it. I can add licenses also, git ignore file also. So I'm going with the default. Yes, I just created an Uber services repository. In this repository, we can add our source code. So I'm going to clone this application to make some changes, add the project and everything. Okay, so going to GitHub Desktop, clone a repository, URL in desktop Uber services. Yeah, yeah, it's cloned. So here is my app. By default, it's empty. We have only one README file containing Uber services. Let me open complete folder. emd code space dot. Yes, we have nothing in this one. It's an empty one we have created, and it also have .git extension file which holds all our user information, like all commits histories and um, branches that we created, code changes, everything will be logged into this one. So if we delete this one, uh, we cannot able to connect with our GitHub. So yeah, in here, so from the portal, I wanted to add some files and write a code. New file. Yeah, I mentioned a file name in a main branch, and yes, I created a file with print.javascript file and write a code inside of the JavaScript language and committing my changes. Here, if we commit the changes from our main branch, it's automatically commit and pushes into the remote one. Yes, this is a new file I created, but until I pull these changes, I cannot able to see in my own laptop, local one. Okay, so when we go to Visual Studio Code, and here there is no changes about the print.js file. To get those changes, we have to pull the changes from the remote. So I open GitHub Desktop and I check into the main branch only, and Uber services. Here we got an pull origin changes. So with this, by clicking on this one, we'll pull the changes from a remote repository. Yes, it's pulled. I have latest changes. So when I check this one, see here, my print.js file came into my application. So when I modify any changes, I'm doing some changes here, code changes. Yeah, I did some changes into this one and saving those changes. Once I save those changes, it will reflect in our local. See, there is one change which is in print.js file. I removed this part and added these changes. So we can keep track of the previous changes and our modified changes. Until we commit and push the changes, these changes won't be visible to other collaborators or other persons. So after reviewing these changes, we can commit these things. We can write a meaningful name and commit this. Updated print statement. Write a meaningful name while we committing this one, like a feature name or the task name or anything. Then commit to the main branch. In ideal case, while working with a group project, please don't use to commit in a main branch. We'll create separate features branch and commit those messages and pushing and creating a pull request. I will explain all this. So once it's committed, my changes won't reflect in main portal. It won't. Yeah, see here is the previous one. So in order to reflect it, we have to push the changes. Yes. So see here, my changes are reflected in a main branch. I mean, remote repository. Others can able to see these changes. So to work with a group project, instead of working with a main branch, create some feature branches from this one. So here we can find an existing branch or create a new branch. Like if we are working with an authentication service, like in authentication service, create a branch with authentication before feature slash authentication. So it will create in a features folder. These branches will create. Like example, like similarly, bug slash authentication. If there is any bugs, we can create this one like test slash authentication. Like those things. So okay, I'm going to create from a main branch. Yes, my feature branch got created, but it won't reflect in my local one. In order to reflect, we have to uh, fetch the branches. So here, so I'm fetching this. So see here, our branch got we can got. I have check out to this feature branch to make some changes, and so I'm navigating to Visual Studio Code. This time I'm modifying the README file. I referenced. Yeah, I updated some text in README file, and here is the update. So in order to merge into the main branch after completion of these feature activities, so I can write this one. README info. I'm completing this one and push into the main remote repository. So by checking here, we have two branches. In a first branch, we have this README file. This is a feature branch. This is the new text that we added, and in main branch we have an existing text only. See here, Uber services. So we can maintain a version controlling by this one. Got it? So to make our branch changes into the main branch, to merge into the everyone working with this main branch, right? They are creating a new branch from the main branch and working on the features and adding to the main branch again. We have to create a pull request also from here. So yes, this is the only change that having difference from main branch to the feature branch. Okay, and create a pull request. So name of this pull request, and add some additional description if you want, and we can add a reviewers. So basically I don't have a reviewers right now because this repository is recently created. I can add reviewers also, assign it to who will create it. This one I created, so I assign it to myself and label it. Labels are used to identify whether it's a bug or a task or a user story or a pull request, anything. If you can't find a label here, you can edit the label session and create a new label and write a development pull request. Anything. Create a label. We can select the color also. Yes. So I go to pull request. Sorry. So write some info and assign it, and add those pull request, label, and milestone. We'll cover all these things in next video about what is milestone and project boards. These are the project boards. I have only one board, I mean here, and all these things in the next one. So this is how we can create a new pull request. Creating a pull request. After reviewers are approved into our reviewers are approving our changes, we can able to match our changes into the main branch. Okay, this is how we can do that. When I make these changes, yeah, since I don't have a current reviewers to approve, yes, those are made. When I navigate back to the main branch and check my changes, readme file, see my readme file updated from Uber services to the hello I referenced in Uber clone project. This is how we can do. So in order to work with multiple people, after creating the project, project admin will go to the settings page and go to the collaborator session. They have to authenticate themselves. So then after there is an merge access section. In this section they can add uh, team members or a project group members to work on a same project. So here I can check for others. Like these are the other GitHub owners. Those they have created with their email ID. They can create from branches from this application itself and set some branching rules, tags, and actions. We have many things like environments and GitHub actions for CI/CD purpose, and we can add keys. We have multiple things over here. These issues will cover in the next section. In this issue section, we can create a task, user stories, features, and update our status, add milestones, and everything we can discuss about in next session. Yes, in pull request we have an already committed or closed or open pull request. Yeah, this is the one which we already matched. So that's it. Thank you.